Today on Sports Central, I'll be giving you guys my final college football playoff predictions for this upcoming 2021 through 2022 college football season. And as we are knocking on the door of this upcoming college football season, it's time to reveal my official college football playoff predictions. So today I'll be revealing my top 6 as well as who I think could potentially win the national championship game this upcoming season, as well as the teams that'll be the honorable mentions, or the ones that'll be not quite in the top 6, but they'll be knocking on the door, being a college football playoff contender, meaning we'll also be revealing our 7 through 11. So I'll be giving you guys my top 11 for this upcoming college football season here today. We're going to get started with your top 6, and we'll be looking at this from 6 to 1. So we're going to get started with number 6, and then we'll work our way up to number 1. So at number 6 in my college football playoff predictions, we have got Iowa State. The Cyclones are going to come in at number 6, which, I mean, if you haven't really been following college football much, this Iowa State team is on the rise right now. You got Brock Purdy, who is an outstanding quarterback. You got Breece Hall, which he is potentially one of, if not the best, running back in the nation heading into this upcoming college football season. I mean, he is an outstanding player. He's got some insane talent. I definitely think Iowa State, with that offense in particular, is going to do very well in the Big 12 this upcoming season. They're not going to quite make the top 4 because of a loss in the Big 12 championship game to a particular team, which will be in our top 4. But Iowa State is definitely going to be a contender next season. Number 5 is going to be the Alabama Crimson Tide. I've got Alabama missing out on the top 4. And before you dislike the video and start hating in the comments, hear me out here. I think Alabama this upcoming season is still going to be a good team. I mean, top 5, if you're an Alabama team, or if you're an Alabama fan, being outside of the top 4 is probably a terrible season right now just because of how big of a dynasty Alabama is. But this Alabama team does pose a couple of question marks this upcoming season. I mean, you don't have Devontae Smith anymore. You don't have Najee Harris anymore. You don't have Mac Jones anymore. And you've got several defensive players that are gone. And Alabama was extremely talented last season. I mean, this team was without a doubt the best team in the nation last season. I'd say by a significant margin. In Alabama this upcoming season, a little bit of a different story. You got an inexperienced quarterback in Bryce Young, which obviously is extremely promising. We saw him in high school, and he definitely looks like he's going to be a star quarterback in the future. I mean, he's already got over $1 million in NIL deals. However, the thing is for Alabama here is that this team is pretty inexperienced. I mean, if you take off the cover, this is an Alabama team that does have a lot of new players this upcoming season, and also a lot of players that did not play last season. So I think things will be a little bit bumpy for this Alabama team. I do think that they still have a great season, and they're obviously going to be a top 10 team for just about the entire season. But I think Alabama does take a loss at some point, a loss or two, and they will lose the SEC championship game. So I do expect you to win the division, but you will lose the SEC championship game to one team that is also in the top 4. So Alabama, as for now, I've got missing the top 4, but once again, this is just my opinion, so you don't have to, I mean, if you want to, go ahead and hate on the video and tell me why my predictions are so terrible, but this is how I'm feeling this upcoming season. I think Alabama is going to be not quite as good in 2021 versus 2020 just because of the amount of talent that is being lost on this team this past off season. So now, looking at the top 4, number 4, we've got Clemson, the Tigers out of the ACC. They're going to win the ACC, but it's going to be close. And I think Clemson is potentially, this could be actually a pretty good ACC conference. You also got North Carolina and Miami. Both of those teams, I think, will be teams to worry about if you're Clemson. Whichever team wins that division with North Carolina and Miami, I do think will definitely keep it close with Clemson. I think we could definitely, if there's any season in the future where Clemson can be taken down in the ACC, it will be 2021. North Carolina and Miami both have got outstanding quarterbacks and great, very talented teams. And so I think that, whichever team wins the ACC is more than likely going to be at the number 4 position this upcoming season, whether that's Miami, North Carolina, or Clemson. Number 3 is going to be the Ohio State Buckeyes, and Ohio State is a team that has completely ruled the Big Ten over the past few years, and I expect that to kind of continue this upcoming season. You got CJ Stroud coming in. We haven't seen him a whole lot either. And that's kind of the main thing that does pose a question mark. But otherwise, talent looks outstanding for Ohio State. Receiving core's got Garrett Wilson and Chris Olave. That's a huge return for this Ohio State team. Defensively, looks great. You do lose quite a bit of talent after last season, but it's not quite as much as Alabama. Alabama is losing a lot. But Ohio State defensively, you do lose a few players there, but offensively, this team looks very good. Number 2 is going to be Oklahoma, the Sooners. They're going to win the Big 12. Spencer Rattler, that is an Oklahoma team that I would not be surprised to see win a national title this upcoming season. I mean, Spencer Rattler is for real, and if you've never heard his name, I mean, you're going to be hearing his name a lot this upcoming season. Spencer Rattler last year in his first season playing as a starter, I mean, he had a bumpy start, but he really improved over the course of last season. He put up some outstanding stats, and if he continues to improve, this Oklahoma team is for real, and they potentially have gotten a Heisman winning quarterback there in Spencer Rattler. So Oklahoma is going to be a very talented team next season. I can easily see them being top 2. Number 1 is going to be the Georgia Bulldogs. I've got Georgia number 1, and this was very tough. This top 4, top 6 really was very difficult this year, which is definitely a good sign. I think that, I mean, really, going into last season, I think that many analysts were predicting Alabama just because of how much talent that they had, which is pretty obvious. I mean, I was predicting Alabama to win the title last season as well, just because of how much talent that they had. And really, I mean, this upcoming season, you got 4 or 5 teams that have got a tremendous amount of talent. So really, it's not just one particular team that is really looking good. I mean, you got 4 or 5 teams that I could see winning the title next season. Like, I mean, each of the teams in the top 5 that I've got right now between Georgia and Alabama, I could definitely see winning the title. Like, once again, Clemson could win it, Oklahoma could win it, Ohio State could win it. I mean, Georgia and Alabama could win it. Really, any of the 5 teams, I would not be surprised to see get the championship this year. I mean, there's so much talent in through there. You got so many future star NFL players for sure within those 5 teams alone. But I've got Georgia number 1 for now. I think the winner of the SEC championship game between Georgia and Alabama will be in the number 1 position. So Alabama is that close. If they can win the SEC championship game, they should be at number 1. But I've got Georgia winning it. I really like JT Daniels in that offense a lot. JT Daniels, of course, last season was undefeated as the starter for the Bulldogs. We only saw him for a few games because of injuries, but he did play outstanding when he was with Georgia as the starter. Clemson, I mean, the ACC is a really interesting conference this upcoming season. I mean, Clemson could easily be number 3, or the winner of the ACC could also be number 3, and potentially Ohio State could be number 4. Or we could also see Alabama sneak into the college football playoff and either Ohio State or Clemson get knocked down to number 5. Because we did see 2 SEC teams in the college football playoff a few years back, but I don't know about this season. I think this season you got plenty of good teams that could definitely be in the college football playoff, and so I think Alabama. I'm not sure we're going to see 2 teams from the same conference in the top 4 this year, just because of how much talent that there is across the board. But here's my top 6: Georgia 1, Oklahoma 2, Ohio State 3, Clemson 4. This would be a very interesting playoff if we did see it, because obviously, I mean, we're going to see pretty much a new team win the national championship game. And I mean, Clemson, of course, has won a couple, but I mean, Georgia, Oklahoma, and Ohio State, I mean, all 3 of those teams definitely got potential to win it next season. In particular, the top 2 there, Georgia and Oklahoma, I definitely think are I'd say, the most likely to win the championship game next season. I mean, obviously, we can see Alabama or Clemson win it because of how much experience those teams have in the playoff, but I wouldn't be surprised to see Georgia or Oklahoma win it next year. Now, looking at the honorable mentions here, 7 through 11. Well, actually, no. First off, I'll be giving you guys my predictions for the top 4 games. So, Georgia, I've got them beating Clemson if that matchup does end up happening. I think Georgia is, once again, just overall the more talented team. Plus, I'd take an experienced quarterback who's talented over an inexperienced quarterback which DJ Uiagalelei is also very talented, but I think JT Daniels is on fire right now. I mean, we saw how he played at the end of last season. If he continues that into 2021, watch out. But Ohio State there in the second matchup. I've got Oklahoma winning that matchup. I think Ohio State could contend, but I like Spencer Rattler and Oklahoma to get the win there. So we'll be seeing Georgia and Oklahoma in the championship game. That's what my prediction is here for this upcoming season. And for right now, I'm not going to predict that matchup just because of how tough of a one that is to predict. Like, if I were to give you guys my first thoughts, I would probably say Georgia, just because of the experience of being in the SEC. I mean, the SEC is a brutal conference, and also, I mean, that team does have quite a bit of talent. I mean, JT Daniels is extremely talented, and I like him a lot. Oklahoma obviously is just as talented, really, as Georgia is. I mean, both teams have got great quarterbacks and great offenses, and I mean, that's why it's such a tough game to predict there. But looking at that matchup at first glance, I'd probably pick Georgia. But obviously, Oklahoma would definitely keep it close. So, yeah, that's what my predictions are for the top 6 as of right now. But looking at your 7 through 11, you've got North Carolina, of course, at number 7, which North Carolina, I do think will be runner-up of the ACC. I think Miami is going to be very close, but I like Sam Howell and North Carolina to end up proceeding on to the ACC championship game. So Miami, though, if Miami does get in the ACC championship game, I would not be surprised to see them win it either. I mean, Derek King and Miami is also a very talented team, but I like Sam Howell just a bit more than Derek King. Cincinnati, number 8, so that's your top group of 5 conference team. USC, the Pac-12 championship or Pac-12 champion, at number 9. Then Wisconsin, the Big Ten runner-up, at number 11. So these are the teams that are going to be knocking on the door of the top 6, but won't quite make it this upcoming season. So that being said, that wraps it up for today. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below on your predictions for this upcoming college football playoff. And obviously, I mean, this is a very polarizing video just because of how many different opinions and how many different football fans are in the comment sections in these videos. I mean, it's crazy. You got all sorts of fan bases clashing against each other, which is obviously the fun of college football. But I would like to hear your opinions in the comments below. I mean, it's a very interesting season. I think this could potentially be one of the most fun seasons that we've seen in a long time for college football, just because, I mean, no team, in my opinion, is a huge standout to win it. Like last season, I was pretty confident that Alabama would win the title. But this season, I'm not so sure. I mean, you got 5 teams who definitely could win it, so it's going to be a lot of fun to see how things shake out, and especially the ACC. ACC is going to be a very fun conference this season. North Carolina, Miami, and Clemson. Who knows? We could potentially even see North Carolina in the top 4. Anyway, that being said, let me know your thoughts and comments below. Appreciate you guys all watching. Stay tuned for more from All Sports Central. I'll see you guys later.